Okay, hi, welcome to my Unit 4 test corrections vlog. So one of the first questions I missed was statements regarding developing countries and developed countries. So for my answer, I put developed countries have lower per capita GNPs than developing countries. And the reason I put this is I was debating between this answer and developed countries generally have safe water supplies, and the reason I put this one is because I thought it sounded a lot smarter than the other one. I thought the other one was too simple, so I kind of second guessed myself there and got the answer wrong. Next question I missed was number 5, that discussed the rapid rate of population growth for countries, and so I put letter B, which is this one that kind of looks like a I don't know, just kind of like a blob. And the reason I chose this is because I thought as it goes up, it's not supposed to get skinnier, or that means like more populations are dying off. But I put this because I thought it was supposed to stay wide, which meant that the population stayed steady and it would steadily increase because the population rates were so high, or the birth rates were so high. But the actual correct answer was A, which was this one that looks like a triangle. And the reason this is because the birth rate is so high, and the graph shrinks over time to like a triangle, and this means that some of the people are dying off. So this is always causing a population growth because there's never a steady number and there's always more people being added. That's why I got that one wrong. So the next question I got wrong was number 7, and it says people regard wildlife as beautiful. This is evidence that wildflowers have economic importance. And the reason I thought it was economic importance is because if it has economic importance, then that means that if it looks beautiful, people will want to buy it more, which will improve the economy. That's how I thought of it. But the correct answer was actually aesthetic, and many people regard wildflowers as beautiful, so that's why that was the correct answer. The next question I missed was number 10, and it was talking about the survival curves. And the answer I put was human populations are more vulnerable than hydras. And the reason I thought this is because the two human populations here and here, they just seemed a lot more flexible. They had two of their own lines, and I thought that meant that they were a lot more flexible with how they were going or working. But the actual answer is the survival curve indicates that starving fruit flies live out their full lifespan. And as you can see, the survival fruit flies do in fact live out their full lifespan. But the reason I chose that one, or the human population one, is because I was just conflicted with how the two lines were so they were so spread apart on the chart that I thought that meant they were more diverse. So that's why I chose that answer, and that they were more vulnerable because if they have more diversity, I thought they were more vulnerable. Okay, so the rule of 70 is used to estimate, and I thought the correct answer was infant mortality or infant development, because I was thinking maybe 70% of them live, or maybe 70% of them die. So I was conflicted with that, as thinking that 70% of the infants were either living or dying. So I thought that one was the most reasonable for me, but it was actually the population doubling. And I looked it up after, and the the rule of 70 is actually used for population doubling. It would it's like like a kind of like a small math equation that can be used to find if the population increase, or like the doubling time for how long it would take a population to double. Okay, so for the next one, it says, which area on the map is experiencing the highest population growth? And I wrote C as India, but now that I look back at it, I realize that India is developing the fastest and is coming up, but it's not actually the very top one. China is actually the very top one, and they have the highest population growth rate for the entire world, and at times they even had to put a one-child policy in place, which tried to limit them, but it just ended up hurting the country even more. So they took it out, and now they're back for now. They're having more population growth than ever. Okay, so the next question is, in 2016, the population of the United States was approximately 325 people, with an annual growth rate of 0.7%. The next question asked, if the population of the U.S. would continue to grow at this rate, what would be the approximate population size of the U.S. in the year 2216? And the answer I chose was letter B, because I thought that seemed reasonable, because I was running out of time on the test, so I didn't quite get to answer it. But the correct answer actually is D, 1.3 billion. And and now that I actually helped on, I did the calculations, and that's what it turned out to be. And I also missed the next one right after it. It said if the population would continue to grow at this rate, the population of the U.S. would double around the year. And I put 2096, but obviously that's not right, so I calculated that out as well because I ran out of time on the test, and the correct answer is 2116 is when the population would double in the U.S. Okay, so I missed number 39, and says, the figure depicts age structure diagrams of the global human population in 1970 and 2014. All of the following except, and I put the answer, the TFR of the planet has decreased from 1970 to 2014. And I was thinking that, like, I couldn't remember what TFR stood for on the test, but now that I'm looking back at my notes, I remember that it stood for total fertility rate. So I thought that one sounded a little bit smarter than letter A, which is the correct answer, which says there were more people on the planet in 2014. There were more people on the planet in 2014 than in 1970, and this is not true because there were actually more people on the planet in 1970 because a lot of families were, the healthcare wasn't as good, so a lot of the young would die off, or they would die off as they got older. They would die off at younger ages, so that's why this is the correct answer. Okay, so I missed number 40. It says, which of the following can be inferred from the figure? And this is the figure that was shown of the countries of female secondary school enrollment rate to total fertility rate. And I put the total fertility rate is lowest for those countries where all females attend high school, and that wasn't really present in the graph shown. It was just more like from what I assumed. I didn't really read the graph too well then, but the correct answer is, for countries in which less than 50% of females attend secondary school, there's no relationship. And you can see that in the graph because the two axes are not related at all. So they had nothing to do with each other, which is why that was the correct answer. Okay, so number 41 is one I got wrong also. It says despite dire predictions in the past, humans still inhabit Earth. Some economists would argue with this because in the answer I put was B, Malthus overestimated Earth's environmental sensitivity, and this is when I was just filling out answers at the end of the test for ones that I skipped. But the correct answer is actually technological developments have alleviated some of the strain on Earth's resources. And this is true because through technology we can be more efficient with how we use resources, and we don't need to use as much from the earth as we can possibly make artificial ones that work just as well, and we can preserve the earth like that. I also missed 42, which is about the reading as well. It says, besides contraception, what can humans do to control population growth's negative effects on the environment? And I put E, which was encourage smaller households, but this actually wasn't correct because if we just encourage smaller households, that means that more houses will be made for, say, like they want to limit it at 4 or whatever, but a family has 8, so then they have to take up two houses rather than just live all in one. And the correct answer for this was letter D, which says discourage population movement into sensitive environmental areas. And the reasons that they wouldn't want to go into these sensitive environmental areas is because that they could harm the environment that lives there, and then once one house is built there, that means more deforestation will occur, which will bring the environment ultimately to its downfall. Okay, I also missed number 43 next, and it says, which of the following federal laws specifically deals with the cleanup of abandoned hazardous waste sites? And I put my answer as A, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. And now that I'm looking back through my notes in the manila folder that we made, the Resources Conservation Act actually only controls the sites, while the correct answer, letter B, Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, that law actually does the cleanup, while the other one only controls it. Okay, so the next question I missed was number 48. During which stage does the population increase the fastest? And this was through the industrial stages in the demographic transition model. So I put it increases the fastest during stage 1, and the reason I thought this is because it was at the highest part, but they actually weren't increasing, they were just staying at a steady rate. But the birth rate actually fluctuates from it starts in stage 2, so it looks like that has the highest impact rather than or has the highest population increase rather than stage 1, where it just stays flat and doesn't increase at all. It just stays at a constant rate. Okay, the last one I missed was number 50. It says a country of 840,000 has 36,000 births and 22,000 deaths, 10,000 immigrants, and 8,000 immigrants per year. What is the growth rate of this country? And so the first time I tried to solve this, I got 2.1%, and I must have messed up on my calculation because I was only off by a little bit. But the correct answer was 1.9, and now that I redid it, I got the correct answer, so I just messed up on the math there. Thank you for watching my test correction vlogs, Ms. Pittman.